Hello, welcome to the channel Why Stories. Enjoy watching.
Alba and Melanio had been dating for a year and a half when they first met at the city park by a large fountain. It was July, and a sweltering heatwave had descended upon the city. It seemed as if everyone, young and old, had converged around this man-made oasis. Mothers wearily kept an eye on their kids, who played in the water, laughing and clad in their underwear, creating a mist of refreshing splashes. College students lounged on the park's wooden deck chairs in shorts and miniskirts, while others who couldn't find a spot simply sprawled on the grass, textbooks abandoned nearby. Alba, then in her senior year, was supposed to be preparing for her summer exams. But that day, the stifling heat and overpowering lethargy made it impossible to focus. She tried to read her child's psychology textbook while leisurely enjoying her ice cream cone, but her concentration wavered. Surrendering to the heat, she set her book aside, adjusted her wide-brimmed hat, stretched out on her beach blanket, and soon drifted off to sleep. She was abruptly awakened by a dream. A menacing creature approached her, ready to strike with its gaping maw. Jolting awake in panic, the nightmare seemed to have come to life. A large, slobbering mouth was looming just inches from her face. "Aya!" Alba shrieked, scrambling to her feet. "Go away!" "Shoo!" "Viviana, come here now," a voice called out firmly. "Why are you bothering people?" The dog retreated, giving Alba a contrite look, and hurried back to its owner. Moments later, it returned, now securely on a leash, with its owner, a tall, handsome man wearing sunglasses. "I'm so sorry," he apologized with a deep, melodious voice. "Viviana is just very curious and didn't mean any harm. Isn't that right, girl?" The large dog, comparable in size to a calf, wagged her tail vigorously, sending up a cloud of dust and cottonwood fluff. "Yeah, it's okay. Cough, cough," Alba responded, coughing as the dust and fluff enveloped her. "I was just startled, that's all." "How can I make it up to you?" the man offered with a smile, pointing towards a nearby summer cafe. "How about a drink?" "Sounds tempting," Alba replied with a grin, "but I doubt they'd let us in with Viviana." "Viviana has mastered the art of puppy eyes," the guy remarked with a sly smile. "And she's usually calm. She'll settle down by the table and won't disturb anyone. By the way, I'm Melanio. Shall we?" "Let's," Alba responded, introducing herself in kind. Under the cool shade of the cafe umbrellas, they enjoyed refreshing cocktails and delightful conversation. They planned to meet the next morning for a jog along the promenade. As they chatted, they discovered numerous shared interests: a passion for sports, a love for horror films, a preference for strong black coffee, the habit of rising early, and a mutual joy in long walks through the rain. "Viviana and I take long walks quite frequently," Melanio shared. "She needs the exercise, or she'll gain weight and can become unwell. We could all use more exercise," Alba quipped. "Or we'll end up in the same boat." Their relationship blossomed. While Alba pursued her studies in psychology, Melanio was nearing the end of his tenure at a technical school. They rented an apartment close to the metro station, which Melanio playfully claimed they cohabited with Viviana. Alba's daily commute to her institute took an hour and a half each way. Occasionally, she'd spend the night at a well-to-do friend's residence. This friend, almost living in the heart of the city, had been gifted a quaint apartment by her parents. "Some people have it all," Alba confided in Melanio, hinting at the idea of them living together. "A place of their own, financial support from parents, no need for scholarships. The rest of us just get by." "Everyone has their starting point," Melanio offered, though he didn't seem eager to shake up their living situation just yet. Alba rationalized their circumstances, reasoning that their relationship was still relatively fresh. After all, who would ask someone they've dated for just a few months to move in? Surprisingly, in Melanio's apartment, she never stayed past midnight. Regardless of how late it got, he always ensured she had a taxi home. "Why does he seem so off?" Alba confided in her apartment-owning friend. "Men can be mysterious," Olivia responded. "It's probably nothing. He might just snore." Do you really think so? Alba expressed her doubts. There's definitely something else. Perhaps picking up on her reservations, Melanio proposed a trip to the mountains. How about joining my friends and me in the mountains, he suggested. There's a budget-friendly hotel where we stay. Every New Year's, we head there for some cross-country skiing. There aren't any ski lifts, but that's never been a problem for us. I've actually never tried downhill skiing. Never got the opportunity, Alba confessed, but she was keen on the adventure. Most of the journey to the mountains was made by bus. Given the size of their group, 8 in total, far too many for one vehicle. Of the group, Alba was one of just 3 women. Victor's just come out of a relationship, Melanio informed Alba, and Otan's taking care of their newborn since his wife recently gave birth. To the rest of the crew, Melanio proudly introduced Alba as his girlfriend, the love of his life. His declaration, always accompanied by a warm smile, never failed to flatter her. The group was a fun-loving bunch. Victor and Sergio strummed their guitars, setting the musical backdrop for the others who sang with gusto. They enjoyed drinks and card games, but everything was done in good spirits without any excesses. The mornings were relaxed, starting with a hearty breakfast before hitting the slopes for skiing or sledding. For Alba, the breathtaking vistas, the absence of crowds, and the invigorating mountain air were a welcome departure from the city's relentless smog. The altitude took some getting used to, initially making her feel a bit lightheaded. Through it all, Melanio was her steady rock, making sure she was comfortable. "So, are you enjoying yourself?" he would often inquire, eyes searching hers. "Absolutely," Alba responded with sincerity. "Thank you for bringing me." "How could I not have?" he quipped, pulling her close. They sat nestled together on a large inflatable sled, admiring the winter sun's gradual descent behind the mountain range. "All right, you two lovebirds." A snowball suddenly hit them from behind, followed by hearty laughter, signaling the others' return from a store run. "Time to whip up some dinner. Put the romance on pause." "Oh, it's on." Both Alba and Melanio retorted in jest, retaliating with a flurry of snowballs aimed at Luz, Olga, and inadvertently, a few of the guys. Later, the entire gang convened around a sprawling table in the hotel's shared kitchen. Viviana, always the center of attention, rested beside them, visibly worn out from the day's escapades. "Hey, Melanio," Otan chimed in, "isn't Viviana from a breed known for rescue missions?" "Yes," Melanio affirmed, nodding. "Swiss monks originally bred St. Bernards for that purpose." "Why don't we put her to the test?" Otan teased. "How about we bury Merced in the snow and see if she can find him? You do the burying, and make sure it's yourself." Merced shot back. "Always coming up with these wild ideas. You're looking for excitement in all the wrong ways. Give Viviana a break, you bunch of nutcases." Melanio jested, playfully swatting his friends with a rolled-up newspaper. He then turned to affectionately pat his dog's massive head. "You're worth more than all of them combined, aren't you? My precious girl." "But honestly, why such a big dog?" his friends inquired further. "What's the use of her in the city?" Interestingly, Alba chimed in, "Dogs like Viviana are great with kids. They can even act as brilliant nannies. It's like in Peter Pan's story. Haven't you read the book or seen the film?" The group grew noticeably silent, shifting to unrelated comments and swiftly veering off topic. Confused, Alba leaned into Melanio, whispering, "Did I put my foot in it?" "No, not exactly," he murmured, his expression clouded. "Let's just drop it. I've got a bit of a headache, think we should turn in." "As long as you're still my friend, Viviana," Alba said, stroking the dog's wise face as Melanio made his way to the restroom. "What's up with them, eh?" Viviana's only answer was a gentle lick to Alba's hand. The short vacation ended all too soon. Alba wished they could have lingered longer, but responsibilities beckoned, her academia, Melanio's employment, and everyone else had their personal affairs to tend to. Regular life resumed its fast-paced rhythm. Alba often caught herself reflecting on the future she might have with Melanio. He was undeniably decent, had commendable habits, and always treated her respectfully. However, a tangible tension hung in the air between them. Melanio had never genuinely declared his love for her. He had complimented her many times, especially in front of his mountain friends, even labeling her the love of his life. Still, it sounded scripted. She'd made multiple attempts to engage him in deep conversations, but he'd deflect with lighthearted humor or evade, remaining a mystery. "Where do your parents reside?" she would probe. "Do you see them often?" "They live quite a distance away, so it's tough to visit frequently," he'd deflect. "But we talk on the phone." "Siblings?" "I've got a younger sister, a decade younger than me. She's wed and we don't chat much." His responses were always concise, devoid of depth. Conversely, Alba had been an open book with him. "He's just a reserved guy," Olivia reasoned. "It's fine. But if you're feeling uncertain, it's better to part ways sooner rather than later." "I'm still deciphering him," Alba pondered aloud, seated in Olivia's kitchen, fidgeting with her coffee mug. "He seems so distant lately. Is there someone else in the picture? Why doesn't he ever ask me to stay the night? It stings, honestly." "I hardly invite anyone here, except you," Olivia responded, lightening the mood with her jest. "Well, come on now," Alba exclaimed, her patience wearing thin, feeling as if her problems were being dismissed. "Don't make light of my issues." "Oh, just look at you," Olivia said with a playful smirk. "Our goddess would have a field day analyzing you." The students had informally dubbed their general psychology professor the goddess, a stern, imposing woman who always seemed to regard everyone from a high perch, as though she were a deity from some ancient myth. "You're reciting textbook jargon, but really, if you're so unhappy with how your boyfriend's acting, what does our field suggest you should do? You're nearly a psychologist, after all." "Talk about the issue," Alba replied with evident exhaustion. "I've tried, believe me. He just won't engage." "Then dump him." "Simple," Olivia said with a nonchalant shrug. "I can't," Alba admitted, burying her face in her hands, her voice breaking. Hey. Olivia's tone shifted to one of genuine concern. "What's happening, Alba? Stop the tears and talk to me. Are you pregnant?" "No," Alba said, dabbing her eyes with a kitchen towel. "I'm not pregnant." "That's not the crux of it." "Then what is?" Olivia pressed. "I've fallen for him, hard," Alba confessed, frustration evident in her voice. "Isn't it clear?" "Ah, love," Olivia sighed, throwing up her hands in mock exasperation. "There's no manual for that one." "I know, I get it," Alba snapped. "But I need to know he's not with someone else on the side. What if I'm here, agonizing over him, and he's out there with another? How do I find out the truth? Should I consult a psychic?" "Come on," Olivia said with an eye roll. "You're too smart for that. Ditch the idea of fortune tellers. We need a more rational approach." She fell into deep thought, chewing on the end of her hair and staring out the window. Suddenly, Olivia's face lit up. "I've got it," she exclaimed, so abruptly that Alba nearly jumped. "Eureka!" Olivia darted out of the kitchen, searched around briefly, and then returned, brandishing her smartphone. "I remembered something," she said, waving the device with a triumphant grin. "What? What is it?" Alba pressed, her curiosity evident. "What did you remember?" "My sister, Nadi, she's dating someone new." "Not the guy I mentioned before," Olivia clarified. "Anyway, this new boyfriend of hers is in the surveillance business." "He does what now?" Alba asked, eyebrows raised. "Surveillance," Olivia repeated with a touch of exasperation. "He installs surveillance cameras, even the hidden ones. Nadi mentioned it the last time I saw her." "And?" Alba prompted. "So, we could ask him," Olivia suggested. He might know how to set up a discreet camera in Melanio's place. At least outside. Then you'd see who comes and goes. Olivia. Alba gasped, horrified. That's so invasive. I can't believe you'd even suggest it. What? Olivia defended, half-jokingly. It's ingenious. It's unethical. Alba retorted. Suit yourself, Olivia huffed, her feelings a tad bruised. I was just trying to help. You'd get your answers, one way or another. I appreciate it, I do, Alba responded, drawing Olivia into a gentle embrace. But that's crossing a line for me. Please understand. Olivia smirked, her eyebrow cocked playfully. Different strokes for different folks. The conversation concluded with that. After finishing their coffee, they parted ways, leaving Alba's dilemma unresolved. As winter's grip loosened and spring hinted at its return, Alba's birthday approached. On a Friday in mid-March, Melanio had made reservations for a fancy restaurant on the top floor of a high-rise, boasting stunning city views. He'd even sent her the menu in advance to choose her dishes. Do you think he's about to commit? Alba confided in Olivia, a hopeful glint in her eye. Let's wait and see, Olivia responded. That place isn't cheap. Must mean you're special to him. Promise to fill me in afterward? The dining spot by the expansive window was indeed luxurious, as confirmed by the restaurant's website. The actual ambience exceeded the photographs. Modern industrial elements were paired with vibrant touches, soft lighting emanated from bunches of brown and white bulbs. Large plants tastefully offset the raw gray partitions that secluded the premier tables. A polite waiter guided them to one such private enclave. Right this way, he offered, pulling out Alba's chair. Have you settled on your meals? We've pre-ordered, Melanio confirmed, except for dessert. We'll choose that in a bit. The waiter nodded, retrieving a bottle of champagne from an ice bucket and filling their glasses. Compliments of the house for the birthday lady. Thank you, they both intoned, lifting their glasses in a toast. To you, my dear, Melanio murmured, brushing a gentle kiss over her fingers. I truly wish for your happiness with me. She beamed at him, wondering internally if he'd ever declare his feelings outright. He presented her with a slender box. A small token for you. Inside lay a silver chain, its heart-shaped pendant set with a delicate gem. Though the price had been scraped off, the description revealed its value, white gold, inset with a diamond. It's stunning, she murmured, eyes wide. It must have cost a small fortune. Yes, he smiled warmly. But for a radiant girl like you, no expense is too great. Besides, someone here just landed a new, lucrative position. Really? The evening was unfolding with surprise after surprise. You secured that job? Alba sprang to her feet, wrapping him in an enthusiastic embrace. I'm elated for you. I always believed it was meant for you. Thank you, he replied, standing to return her embrace, obviously touched by her enthusiasm. With this, we can pursue so many of our dreams. This is monumental news. Alba bubbled with excitement, barely containing her joy. Just a month prior, Melanio had shared that he dispatched his resume to multiple corporations in search of experts with his skill set. The duo had set their hopes particularly high for an opening in the communications and service wing of a prominent cell phone provider, renowned for its generous salary, perks, and privileges. You're even allowed to bring your children and pets to the office, Melanio had said, wonder filling his voice. They've got in-house daycare and pet caregivers. You get to mingle with them during breaks. Neat, right? It's beyond impressive. Alba had remarked. Imagine taking Viviana to your office. They'd shared a chuckle, visualizing the dog care staff's astonishment upon meeting such a large canine. And now, the job was his. It signified so much, possibilities of owning a house, purchasing a car, and as Alba secretly hoped, the chance to finally share a life under one roof. Excuse me, the waiter interjected, shall I serve the dessert now? Just a moment longer, Melanio requested with a smile. But we haven't picked a dessert yet. Alba noted, puzzled. I've gone ahead and chosen for us, he replied with a mischievous grin. Hope it's to your liking. Truth be told, Alba was in such high spirits that the lack of dessert wouldn't have dampened her mood. Today had brought such exhilarating revelations. After savoring their dinner, they soaked in the live music, captured memories with selfies, and relished the breathtaking aerial view of the city after dusk. The twilight hues of pink and lilac slowly gave way to a fiery canvas of crimson interlaced with gold. Below, the city came alive with myriad lights, lampposts, vibrant billboards, neon signs, traffic signals, and headlights of countless vehicles. From their vantage point, these lights seemed like fireflies, stationary or fluttering in various patterns. It was truly a spectacle to behold. Now, let's indulge in some dessert, Melanio signaled the waiter. With a knowing nod, the waiter returned shortly with an ornate, petite cake. Upon closer inspection, Alba spotted a minuscule velvet heart-shaped box nestled in the center of a cream rose. What's this? Her eyes shimmered with anticipation. Yet another surprise? Go on, open it, he urged. As Alba's eyes widened with realization, tears pooled. Oh, Melanio. Dropping to one knee, he tenderly held her hand. Alba, will you let me be yours forever? From the opened box, he retrieved a refined gold ring, encircled by delicate gemstones. I hope you'll wear this as a symbol of our love. Choking back her emotions, Alba managed, Oh, Melanio. Does this mean? He searched her teary eyes for confirmation. Yes, 1,000 times, yes. She pressed her face against his chest, overcome with emotion. I'm over the moon. Pulling her close, he kissed her. As a mellifluous tune began playing, he whispered, May I have this dance? Words failed Alba, but her affirmative nod spoke volumes, her eyes glistening with affection and gratitude. They gracefully moved between the tables, dancing close to the elongated bar counter. After a moment, Alba excused herself to freshen up and repair the makeup marred by her outpouring of emotions. Upon her return, Melanio began. I'd hoped to book a suite in the hotel for tonight, but couldn't find someone to take care of Viviana. Would you be okay if we went to my place instead? Absolutely, she responded, eyes radiant, and terminally rejoicing at the opportunity. A taxi was promptly hailed, and they found themselves at Melanio's residence within the hour. I think our fluffy companion needs a little stroll, Melanio quipped, glancing at the dog. I trust my fiancé doesn't mind a bit of competition. She laughed heartily, not in the slightest. Go on, I'll freshen up while you're out. Once Melanio departed with Viviana, Alba's humming filled the bathroom as she showered. Dressed in a clean t-shirt Melanio had thoughtfully left for her, she wandered into the kitchen to prepare some tea. The front door soon echoed a familiar sound, signaling their return. As Melanio claimed Viviana's pause, she ambled into the kitchen, eagerly awaiting her meal. He was just opening a can of dog food when his phone vibrated. A quick glance and he muttered, It's from work. Just give me a moment, and swiftly exited. Having become accustomed to this nightly routine during her visits, Alba patiently waited for Viviana to finish her meal before cleaning her face. All done, sweetheart. Off you go now. From the adjoining room, Melanio's voice drifted, slightly muffled. Do I absolutely have to handle this tonight? I did give prior notice. Moments later, a hint of exasperation tinted his tone. Okay, that's not needed. Fine. Footsteps approached, and he appeared, visibly distressed. Alba, there's a situation. I need to head out immediately. She blinked, taken aback. Tonight? Are you being serious? His expression was a mix of regret and anxiety. There's an urgent matter at work. I tried sidestepping it, but it's unavoidable. So, what? You're just going to show me the door? On my birthday? The very day you propose? Alba's voice grew louder, tinged with disbelief. I should have known better. Expecting things to be different was naive of me. She gestured dismissively, sadness weighing down her gaze. Maybe I should just leave. Retain some semblance of dignity. Alba, he implored, gently touching her shoulder. I'm begging you to understand. It's tearing me up inside. Do you really? She pulled back sharply, shrugging off his grasp. How many nights did I wish you'd want me to stay? Maybe for the entire night or perhaps even forever. Yet, every single time, you treated me like something you could just discard after use. Alba. His eyes widened in disbelief. It wasn't like that. I always ensured you got home safely, either driving you myself or arranging a cab. You never voiced the desire to stay. Was I supposed to grovel? Her voice dripped with indignation. Plead for you not to cast me aside after our moments together? Each time, your behavior was horrendous. It was downright humiliating. Alba, please, Melanio tried to pacify her, you're just upset. Don't you dare belittle my emotions. Her voice reached a fever pitch. It's not mere upset. I'm livid. Even today, of all days, you can't prioritize us. I truly wish I could, but it's beyond my control. Melanio's voice was desperate. Can't you see? Starting this new job is critical for both of us. She stared back, lips pressed in a tight line, contemplating. Let me drop you home, he offered, then I'll rush to work. We can regroup tomorrow and discuss everything. Please. All right, she conceded. But this is the last time. Absolutely, I promise. He exhaled, visibly relieved. Back home, Alba immediately dialed Olivia despite the hour and spilled the events of the evening. That's quite the roller coaster, Olivia remarked. Congratulations, though. This is what you've been waiting for, right? Yes, Alba sighed. But after the proposal, he just shooed me out. Some work emergency came up and suddenly, I was dispensable. Seriously? Olivia's voice echoed her surprise. Just like that? Well, he did ensure I got home safely, Alba added with some reluctance. But it was so abrupt. One moment, it's I adore you, here's a ring, let's head to my place, and the next it's I have to leave urgently. Catch you later, Dot. Hold on, Olivia interrupted, he had a work emergency and had to leave? Why didn't he just let you stay at his place? Spend your time and then return to a welcoming home? Alba was silent for a beat. I didn't even think of that. Maybe something to ponder over, Olivia suggested, a hint of mischief in her tone. Anyway, I'll let you go. Night. Good night. Lying amidst the muted shadows of her room, Alba ruminated over Olivia's words. If Melanio had to rush to work, why didn't he let her stay? Just to wait. Why had he kicked her out like a misbehaving puppy? Did he need to get her out of his apartment? Of course, he must have another woman on the side. Maybe she's blackmailing him, unwilling to let go. Alba was moved to tears, feeling sorry for herself. She was determined to find out who this mysterious rival was. Ding! A persistent doorbell interrupted the morning silence and ended the beautiful dream Olivia was having. The dream escaped back into the realm of sleep, leaving behind only a vague, blurry memory. Who on earth is that at this hour? Olivia mumbled sleepily, rolling over. Screw everyone. But the uninvited guest was persistent, ding, ding, ding. For crying out loud! Olivia exclaimed, clearly irritated. Her sleep had been totally disrupted. She slipped on her fluffy slippers and shuffled to the door. Who is it? It's me, Olivia, open up. Alba's muffled voice responded. Why are you here so early? Olivia grumbled, yawning. You can't sleep, so you decide to wake me up on a day off? I'm sorry, I just couldn't sleep. I hopped on the first train, Alba explained as she entered the apartment, hastily taking off her jacket. I'll make us some coffee, you go back to bed. Thanks a lot, her friend snapped. I might as well shower. I won't get back to sleep now anyway. After showering, Olivia found Alba had prepared breakfast and made some aromatic coffee. That's more like it, but a couple of hours later would have been nice, she said, appreciating her friend's efforts. All right, spill it. Why are you here at the crack of dawn? We're setting it up, Alba stated decisively, pouring steaming coffee into Olivia's cup. Setting what up? Olivia asked, confused. The camera. Remember we talked about your friend's guy? Oh, Olivia finally understood. So, you've made up your mind? Yeah. I can't stand not knowing anymore, Alba confessed, shrugging. I thought about what you said. I think he's seeing another woman. I think so too, Olivia agreed. I just wanted you to come to that conclusion on your own. Well, call him, Alba said, determined to tackle the situation head-on. At 7 in the morning on a Saturday? Olivia smirked. Are you out of your mind? Then again, why am I asking? She waved the question off. If I were in your shoes, I'd be going nuts, especially with a guy like that being taken right under my nose. Okay, chin up. We'll have all the information soon. After finally waiting for a decent hour when Saturday calls were acceptable, the girls spoke with a knowledgeable expert and found out that installing a hidden camera these days is a breeze. Just buy the tiniest one you can find online, Paco, Olivia's sister's boyfriend, advised them. It's that simple. They're all wireless. Just plug it in where you need it, and you're good. You'll get the feed on your phone. Paco, come on, we're girls. Olivia laughed. We have manicured hands. We're bound to buy the wrong thing. Be a gentleman and help out, won't you? My friend's fate is on the line here. All right, Paco grumbled. Let's meet up when you're ready to set it up. Give me a whistle, so to speak. Okay, Olivia replied. See? All you have to do is ask nicely. Now, your job is to somehow get your boyfriend out for a bit and stay alone in his apartment. Even half an hour will do, as Paco said. I'll figure out the best way to do it, Alba said. I'll call you later. Au revoir. Around noon, Melanio called. He apologized profusely again and asked for a meeting. Can we see each other tonight, sweetheart? This time, I promise, it'll be different. They're not going to call you from work again, are they? Alba teased. No, he replied firmly. So, when should I pick you up? I've been in the city since the morning, Alba admitted. Came to see Olivia, we had plans. Just take a cab and come over to my place. Why wait till evening? This time, indeed, everything was different. They spent the rest of the day and the entire night together, and Alba began to reconsider her stance. Maybe he truly loves her, she thought. But she still needed to know the truth and remained committed to her cunning plan. On Sunday morning, she asked, Can I stay here until Monday? I'll head straight to the university from here. I don't want to keep commuting. Of course, stay, he kissed her. But I'll need to head out to a store for a couple of hours to check out a computer part. Go ahead, Alba graciously allowed. I'll clean up a bit while you're out. She immediately texted Olivia that the apartment would be free in a few hours. After some discussions, they decided not to delay and take action today. Paco will bring the camera with him, he has an extra one. Just transfer him the money later, Olivia, her loyal friend, texted Alba. No problem, she replied, smiling brightly at Melanio, who had just made her coffee. She warned her accomplices an hour ahead of time and instructed them to wait in the car near the entrance when they arrived, to avoid bumping into Melanio by accident. Eventually, he left, and they waited another 10 minutes. After that, Paco and Olivia made their way up to her floor. Hearing the elevator sound, she opened the door for them. Come in, quickly, Alba beckoned. Viviana let out a few unenthusiastic barks at the newcomers, but seeing that Alba knew them, she turned and retreated to her spot to continue her nap from her morning walk. So, where are we going to place it? Paco asked, taking out a tiny camera no larger than a pinhead. I really don't know, Alba admitted, flustered. I'm not good with this sort of stuff. We need a discreet spot, Paco mused. Somewhere with a clear view of who comes and goes. How about up here, just above the door? Look, there's some kind of old mounting bracket here. Maybe from an old doorbell? If we attach it there, it won't be seen from below. Let's do it, but quickly, Alba said anxiously. What if he comes back sooner than expected? I'll head down and keep a lookout by the entrance, Olivia offered. If I see anything, I'll give you a heads up. Paco can then make a quick exit. Perfect. Thank you. Alba's relief was palpable. I owe you big time. That sounds ominous, Olivia laughed. We're square. A few minutes later, everything was set. The tiny camera lens was practically invisible from below. If you didn't know where to look, you'd never find it. Let's check the connection, Paco fiddled with Alba's phone. Here. And again? Okay, it should be good now. He handed the phone back to Alba. I've installed an app. You go in here, open this, and the recordings will appear. We'll try one out now. Later, if you want to delete, share, or anything else, just tap on the video. Just like regular messaging apps. Got it? I think so, Alba hesitated as she tapped the screen. Like this? That's it. You'll figure it out. If you have any issues, call me, okay? Thank you. Eager to be alone again, Alba said, All right, I'll see you. Thanks again. Sure thing. Take care. She quickly texted Olivia a message of gratitude. Soon after, her tech support, in the form of Olivia and Paco, departed. Alone, Alba felt a wave of guilt, as if she had just exposed her deepest secrets for the world to see. It's for the best, she tried to reassure herself. How long can one live in lies and uncertainty? It's not me who should be ashamed, but him. Shifting her guilt onto him brought her a fleeting moment of peace, and she even vacuumed the entire place, as promised. An hour later, Melanio returned, bringing with him a small computer part, his face beaming with excitement. A thought crossed Alba's mind, he's pretty tech-savvy. What if he notices? A sudden chill ran down her spine. Yet, Melanio acted like always, never suspecting the presence of a hidden camera in his own home. They watched a movie together, had dinner, and went to bed. Tomorrow was Monday, a tough day, and Alba hoped it would bring some sort of revelation. They had agreed not to see each other until Wednesday. Maybe in that time, another woman would show up. First thing Tuesday morning after waking up, she reached for her phone to check the camera recordings. With bated breath, she opened the app and chose fast-forward playback, but nothing unusual appeared on the screen. There was Melanio approaching the door in the morning, heading out for a stroll with Viviana, then coming back, and then heading out again for work. Viviana wandered around the apartment for a few hours, but overall, nothing happened. That evening, the door opened, Melanio was back, alone. He went out for a walk with the dog. He returned from the walk once again just with Viviana. That was it, no one else. Tuesday morning was the same, a walk, then off to work. And right now, Viviana was lying down, chewing on her rubber bone. Alba sighed in relief, but with a hint of regret too. She had hoped to see something that would explain his odd behavior. But she saw absolutely nothing. Could she just be overreacting and wrongfully spying on her boyfriend? Yet, a nagging voice inside her insisted that things weren't as straightforward as they seemed. We'll wait, decided Alba. If there's something fishy going on, she'll eventually catch him in the act. Days passed without any notable changes. On Wednesday, they met up, had dinner together at one of the numerous average diners. They couldn't always splurge on fancy restaurants, and then headed to Melanio's place. The evening ended magically, and Alba began to doubt her actions. She was tempted to remove that tiny spy camera and toss it down the garbage chute. While Melanio was in the shower, she almost did just that, but at the last moment, she held back. And as it turned out, for good reason. On Thursday afternoon, he called and told her they wouldn't see each other over the weekend. He had to visit his parents. "Are you taking the train?" she asked, knowing they lived a few hours from the city. "No, going with a friend by car. He's headed that way too," Melanio replied. "We'll be back late Sunday evening, so see you next week, my love. Hope you'll miss me." "Of course," she assured him, "I'll miss you a lot." On Friday evening, she still hadn't dared to check. The mere thought of what she might see made her shudder. Instead, she and Olivia, Pamela, and another friend had a girls' night out, hopping from bar to bar. It was lively, boisterous, and they didn't get home until the wee hours. Naturally, Alba stayed at Olivia's, as was customary after such nights. They crashed and didn't wake up until late Saturday morning. "How's your beau?" a still slightly groggy Olivia asked Alba. "Did he go to his parents, or is he out chasing other women?" "I don't know," Alba confessed. "I haven't checked yet." "Well, let's check now." Olivia decisively grabbed Alba's phone, opened the app, started playback, and set the phone on a stand, turning the screen horizontally. As they sipped their coffee, they watched Melanio from Friday evening walking Viviana and not going anywhere. And no one else entered the apartment. Either he's romancing someone over the phone, or a fairy visits him at night. Olivia laughed. "So funny. He said he was leaving, but he's just locked up in the apartment, sleeping alone. Maybe the trip got canceled? Car broke down?" Alba wondered. "But he would have called then." "Ah, look, he's getting ready to go somewhere," her friend pointed out. And indeed, on Saturday morning, that is a few hours ago, after a walk with Viviana, Melanio went out again and returned an hour and a half later with a company. "Look at this," exclaimed Olivia. "Is my alcohol buzz still lingering, or what is this? What's going on?" Alba also froze with a cup in her hands, unable to believe what she saw. Melanio entered the apartment with a little girl, about 5 or 6 years old, no older. "Look," Olivia pointed at the screen. Viviana recognized her. So, she must be around him often. "Oh, too bad there's no sound. We'd know everything now." On the video, they saw only how Melanio, squatting down, undressed the little girl, hung her coat on the hanger, and then took her hand, leading her to the kitchen. Viviana gave the little one a peck on the nose and followed them. The camera couldn't capture more of the little one's actions. After about half an hour, the girl came running back to the hallway, playing with Viviana, and disappeared again into the room. Melanio followed her with a cup in hand. "And now they're in the room, and we can't see anything else," Olivia said, disappointed. "Well, at least it's just a child," Alba smiled, "and not another woman." "And you're so calm about this?" Olivia was amazed. "Why be upset about it?" Alba shrugged. "Maybe it's his sister's daughter. He said she had 3 kids. They might have asked him to look after one of them. And that's why he sent you away for the whole weekend?" Olivia squinted. "No, my dear. Something's not right here. I'll go home." Alba got up from the table. "Thanks to you. I'll check later how things are there. I'll message him and ask what he's doing. Let's see if he'll lie or not." Yes, Olivia perked up. "Definitely do that." Alba rode the train with a heavy heart. Some vague premonition still scratched at her, tormenting her, not giving her peace. Once home, she took up cleaning with a burst of energy. She scrubbed, scraped, and cleaned until late in the evening, trying to immerse herself in this useful activity, to distract herself from the distressing thoughts. Now it was clear that Melanio had lied to her. But why? What's wrong with a little child? Why hide this fact from her? Unless... Alba stopped dead in her tracks with a cloth in her hand. Of course. Unless this child is not his own. Making that deduction, she let out a heavy sigh. She finished cleaning and went to take a shower. She washed herself just as vigorously as she had wiped away the dust and dirt, trying to wash away all the ugly lies, the unpleasant residue of distrust. Late into the night, she finally decided to watch the video from Melanio's apartment. It turned out that during that time, a woman also came to see him, as expected. Most likely, it was the little girl's mother. The girl joyfully rushed to greet her as she entered the apartment. The woman was so beautiful that it pained Alba's heart, as if pricked by a sharp object in her chest. And not just beautiful, but elegant, well-groomed. It was evident that she took great care of herself. In her chic tweed coat, fashionable boots, and neatly styled hair, she was simply irresistible. If I have to compete with this lady, I've already lost, Alba thought sadly, and tears welled up in her eyes again. She also noticed something else. While greeting Melanio, the dazzling lady kissed him. Granted, it was only on the cheek, but it wasn't particularly pleasant. He said his sister is much older than him, Alba reasoned. So, it definitely can't be her. This stunning beauty doesn't look a day over 25. Alba's mother was in another room, watching television as she usually did in the evenings. She was content that her daughter had cleaned everything, sparing her from having to do it herself. They hadn't been close for a long time, since Alba was a teenager. When her father left the family, and her mother, embittered by the world, rushed to start her own life anew, she didn't show much interest in her growing daughter's inner world. As long as Alba was alive, healthy, fed, dressed, and attending school, that was good enough. Since then, her father had lived with another woman. Later, he married her, and they had a child, Alba's stepbrother, who was 15 years younger than her. She didn't know him and had no contact with him, her father, or his new wife. But why? Alba often wondered. What prevents people from communicating normally after a divorce? Well, if there are no shared children, it's understandable, they separated, and that's it. But when there's a child involved, a living, suffering being, how can you not spare their feelings? Her own feelings were of no interest to either her mother or father. Not during their endless quarrels and fights before the divorce, nor during the prolonged and terrible months of the process. No one stopped to think, what was it like for her? To endure daily scandals, shouting, their mutual blame. And to realize that these were her own flesh and blood, the closest people who brought her into this world and should ideally protect and shield her from all the bad things. From any negativity while she was still too young to live her own life. After her parents finally divorced and split their belongings, Alba felt that she had no one to turn to in case of anything. Her father preferred not to see her extra times, as her ex-wife would nag and bother him about it. As for her mother, she often disappeared from home in the evenings, only returning to check if her daughter had eaten and done her homework. And not always, mostly she called on the phone. To all Alba's complaints, she replied that she was busy and needed to work a lot. Because her father, the scoundrel, left him for another woman. After some time, Alba figured out that late in the evenings and at night, her mother was not working but rather spending time with men. During that time, Alba would cry, burying her face in the pillow in the empty and untidy apartment. It was from then on that Alba acquired the habit of cleaning thoroughly, feeling some inner torment. Cleaning distracted her from sad thoughts, from fear, and seeing a clean home helped her bring order to her inner world. She learned to cook by herself, mostly without her mother's involvement. She picked up some things from magazines, from cookbooks found at home, and learned a few recipes from her grandmother when she visited her in the village during the summer. She started baking pancakes and pies, making soups and compotes. It also helped her distract herself. Her mother hardly cooked anymore, consumed by her own problems and grievances. So they lived together, seemingly united but actually apart. And now, Alba, who had already experienced the bitterness of losing normal relationships with her parents in her life, found herself in the same situation again, this time as the other woman. She wanted to vent or at least talk to someone close about it. But Olivia was on a date with some new guy and asked her not to bother. And there was no point in talking to her mother, who was glued to the television and had no idea about Alba's life. So she decided to talk directly to Melanio. She just didn't want to admit that she had installed a camera in his apartment without his knowledge. It felt disgusting, no matter how you looked at it. So Alba came up with the following story. From the camera, it was visible that Melanio was leaving the house with the little girl, and she decided to tell him that Olivia saw him on the street as she passed by. Yes, that would be the best approach. In the meantime, she sent him an innocent message. Hey, how are you? Did you arrive safely? Why aren't you writing anything? I'm worried. And a sad smiley with a heart. He replied immediately, as if waiting for it. Everything's good, arrived fine. There was no signal here. Love you, miss you. Ah, no signal, huh? Alba thought vengefully. Well, we'll see how you'll explain yourself soon. Even though she really wanted to go to him right away to sort things out, her hands were itching to do so. As they say, she did everything right, according to the textbook. No wonder she studied psychology. She held back her anger and tried to distract herself. She went for a walk around the neighborhood. She bought a waffle cake for her coffee, returned home, took the treats to her room, and collapsed on her bed with a book. She felt so terrible inside that she even skipped university on Monday, although she had a meeting with her thesis advisor that day. She called the academic department pretending to be sick. Then she went to the kitchen and made pancakes, generously pouring them with condensed milk, and ate 3 of them, sprinkling them with powdered sugar. At this rate, I'll soon explode like a kettle, Alba thought indifferently. Then I'll be no match for Melanio's new passion, whatever she is to him. Well, okay. At least I'll suppress the desire to kill her with endorphins and avoid ending up in jail. This thought made her laugh, and she felt a little better, relieved from the stress she had experienced. She thought for a bit and then wrote the following message to Melanio. Hey, darling. How are you? When will we meet? Hey, sweetie. Swamped at work. I'll call you later, he replied, without any smiley faces or sweet words. Alba frowned and wrote again. Well, I decided to get sick. I'm lying at home with a temperature. I feel sorry for you, poor thing, but I won't be able to come today. Sorry. Yeah, what's going on with him? Alba exclaimed out loud and then realized what a foolish mistake she made. By telling him she was sick, she had given him an excuse to not see her for a few days. Now that she supposedly had a fever, it's unlikely she'd be able to visit anytime soon. All these thoughts and worries gave her a headache, and she started feeling really unwell. Her cheeks were burning, and her whole body felt heavy. She stumbled back to bed and unexpectedly fell asleep again. When she woke up, it was clear that she indeed had a fever. Ew, I've made a mess of things. Alba exclaimed, feeling disappointed again. Well, thank goodness it's not a big deal. She had to drag herself to the kitchen, look for medicine, and brew herself some coffee. The thermometer showed 37.8. Unpleasant, now she'd probably have to skip the whole week. And the girl unexpectedly calmed down. She settled comfortably on the pillows, opened a book, and immersed herself in the captivating reading. Sometimes, the best thing you can do is to do nothing at all. She remembered the lessons of one of her teachers. And indeed, why fuss around? It's better to relax and make others fret. First, she texted Olivia, telling her that she was lying alone with a high fever and nobody would come to her. Her mother was at work, only a few months left until retirement, and her stepdad was busy with his own affairs, which he had no intention of sharing with her. Sad, isn't it, comrades? Then Alba texted Melanio again. I have a high fever, and there's no one to help. Doctors don't rush to come to adults at home. You practically have to be dying to get a house call. Come when you can. I'm feeling really lonely. There was no response for a while, but then he finally texted, I'll come, but it'll be very late. I can't make it earlier. Sorry, please. If it gets worse, call an ambulance. Understood, Alba thought mockingly, and with a clear conscience, she dozed off, pretending to be the sickest person in the world. She turned off the sound on her phone to avoid any disturbances. When she woke up, she discovered several unanswered calls and messages from Olivia and Melanio. Her friend wrote that she was very sympathetic and called her my dear poor thing, but she couldn't come today, only tomorrow. Of course, who would want to drag themselves to our dark corner of the city, especially at night, Alba thought. Well, it's okay. Melanio will come in the evening. And he was just asking what she wanted him to bring. Oh, nothing is needed, she replied. Just come, I've missed you so much. Then, with nothing else to do, she immersed herself in social media and lost track of time, spending a couple of hours watching various funny videos, replying to accumulated messages, and leaving comments on posts. That's how she killed time until the evening. When her mother came home from work, she was horrified to find her at home outside of regular hours. Why aren't you at the university? Her mother asked. I'm sick, Alba told her. The temperature is almost 38, and I'm shivering. Oh, that's unfortunate, her mother grimaced. We were just talking that there's some viral angina going around. Older people handle it especially poorly. At almost 55, she already considered herself elderly, aging in soul ahead of her time. So, take care of yourself and wear a mask when you go to the kitchen or the bathroom. Sure, Alba replied indifferently. She had long grown accustomed to the fact that her mother always thought of herself first, no matter what happened. You're young and healthy, she had told her daughter many times. You have your whole life ahead of you. I, on the other hand, have already lived mine, although it's not like I can say I've been happy. I need to take care of myself, otherwise, I'll end up unable to even get a glass of water. It seemed that in this case, her mother, apparently, didn't expect anything from Alba, which always angered and hurt her. Did her mother really consider her so heartless and irresponsible? And did she think that Alba would leave her own mother without help? Then it occurred to her that people always judge others based on themselves. And she immediately remembered that when her grandmother, her mother's mother, was dying in the village, her own mother didn't even think about going to take care of her. She has her son and daughter-in-law there. She gave them the house, so let them take care of it. She calmly sat in front of the TV until her mother's death. Her grandmother was sick for a long time, probably about 8 months. During that time, Alba visited her several times. She loved her grandma very much. There was no happier time in her childhood than the long summer vacations when she was taken to the village for 3 months. How good and carefree it was for her back then. The fragrant hay in the yard smelled delightful, and the sweet wild berries they gathered together. Her grandma's pancakes with fresh milk from their old low-yielding cow, which her grandma cherished and never wanted to send to slaughter, were so delicious. There, in the countryside, Alba felt truly free and loved, unlike in her life in the city with her parents and later just her mother. Suddenly, Alba felt a passionate desire to go to the village to her grandmother's old house. And stay there for a while. Why not? No one had lived in the house for a long time. It stood empty. Uncle Raoul, her mother's brother, and his wife Aunt Paula were looking after it, but they didn't really use it or rent it out. They had wanted to sell it at some point, but they couldn't find buyers at a fair price, and it was a shame to give it away cheaply. It was like a family nest, a mother's memory, a home. Maybe the kids will grow up and won't want to move to the city, Aunt Paula often said. Then let them live in this house, at least someone will stay with me. That's how she expressed her hope that one of her 3 nieces and nephews, Alba's cousins, would stay close to her. But for now, they were too young to decide whether to leave the village for a better life in the city or to stay in their homeland. And so, after almost certainly deciding to go to the village after defending her thesis, Alba wrote to her aunt, with whom she maintained contact, asking if she could stay in her grandma's house for a couple of months. Of course, come, dear, Aunt Paula replied. And Alba felt much calmer inside. She looked at the clock. It was already 9 in the evening. Would he forget and not come? Before she could think, the phone rang, and Melanio said he would be there in about an hour. Mom, can you open the door later, around 10? Melanio is coming, Alba said, stepping into the corridor and stopping at the entrance to her mother's room. Okay? What about yourself? Her mother asked without taking her eyes off the TV. Well, open it. Is it too difficult for you? Alba played on her mother's sympathy. I have a high temperature, and my head is spinning. Fine, her mother waved her hand. I'll open it for your boyfriend, but he better not stay here. What are you talking about? Alba made a face. I'm telling you I have a high temperature, 38.5 already. Take a tablet, her mother said nonchalantly. Aspirin. I've already taken it, Alba shrugged in annoyance and went to the kitchen to pour herself more coffee. She only took tablets in extreme cases, having been taught by her grandmother in childhood. Daughter, never take any chemicals unnecessarily, the wise old woman used to say. You'll ruin your health that way. And then you won't be able to do without these pills, and you'll be sick all the time. It's better to brew raspberry leaves, chamomile, and sage, they're good for coughs too. Alba always followed that advice and had no intention of breaking her rules this time. Melanio arrived a little before 10. He looked exhausted, and Alba even felt sorry for questioning him. Moreover, he was genuinely happy to see her and brought oranges, chocolate, and fever-reducing sachets, which Alba wouldn't take even if she were dying. Of course, she didn't tell him that and only gave him a tender kiss, thanking him for his care, but then immediately stepped back. What am I doing? You might get infected too, she said. I have Viviana. Melanio laughed. The best antivirus. That's true, Alba smiled approvingly. She, too, loved animals and didn't consider them dirty or contagious. On the contrary, a clean, vaccinated cat or dog brings much more benefits than harm to their owners. It's been scientifically proven. They chatted for a while and even had some coffee that Alba had prepared in advance and covered with a warm cap, pretending that her mother had just brought it to her. Then something pricked Alba, and she cautiously asked him, How was your trip? Are your parents okay? My father is sick, Melanio sighed. And my mother is getting worn out because of it. But other than that, everything's normal, nothing new. And how is your sister? Alba persisted. Is she doing well? I haven't seen her in ages, Melanio shrugged. I don't know. Why do you ask? He seemed slightly surprised by Alba's sudden interest in his family. Oh, it's nothing, she mumbled, and finally decided to speak up. Just, Olivia said she saw you near your house on Saturday. Me? Melanio asked calmly. It can't be, she must have mistaken someone else. I doubt that, Alba replied, getting nervous and biting her lip. She's sure she saw you, with a little child, a girl in a red jacket and a yellow hat with flowers. You were with her at the playground. An oppressive silence hung in the air. Both were silent, lost in their thoughts. Unable to hold back, Alba spoke first. What do you have to say? She asked. I messed up, he finally admitted with a heavy sigh. I messed up big time. Messed up? Alba's voice started to rise, and she grew more agitated. So, you lied to me? And it seems not for the first time, about leaving the city, about urgent matters, work, blah blah blah. And here you were calmly walking with children. Who is that girl? Who is she? Emotions were overwhelming her. But Melanio remained silent, turning away from the window, nervously twisting his fingers. Well, why are you silent? Say something, anything. Alba, forgetting that she was gravely ill, jumped out of bed and nervously paced back and forth in the room. Don't be silent, do you hear me? Don't be silent, she said. It's my daughter, he finally said hoarsely and turned to her. His gaze expressed suffering and guilt. Forgive me, please, forgive me for everything that happened. I didn't want it, really, he said. Alba climbed back into bed, making a sad face, and rested her chin on her fist in a desperate gesture. Tears filled her eyes as she turned away from him and looked out the window. She remained silent too. The room was filled with a heavy, pre-storm atmosphere. Finally, Alba couldn't hold back and almost shouted. How could you, How could you deceive me like this? And most importantly, why? What's so terrible about having a daughter? Do you really think so? Melanio perked up and sat on the edge of her bed. Well, yes, she nodded, nervously rearranging the blanket with her hands. Why did you have to hide this from me? When you left for my birthday, it wasn't for work, was it? She looked into his eyes with a searching gaze. It's true, he admitted, biting his lip and nodding slightly. You see, it's all so tangled up. I had no idea how to tell you, and I wasn't sure how you'd react to her existence. Her mother, she's such a wretch. He suddenly shouted and hit the polished surface of the writing desk with his fist. The desk let out a plaintive creak, and Alba flinched in surprise. Why? Why do that? She asked with concern. She drained me completely, and Milu too. Melanio stood up again, crossed his arms over his chest, and stared out of the dark window as if something interesting was happening there. His anger and tension were palpable, and Alba even felt scared. She pleaded with him. Melanio, please, stop being nervous. Tell me everything, and I'll understand, really. I'll try to understand, you hear? Yes, he said. He moved closer again and sank heavily into Alba's favorite armchair next to the bed. Yes, thank you. For a while, he gathered his thoughts, possibly recalling something unpleasant. Alba could clearly see that he didn't know how to begin. She decided to help him and said, You don't have to tell it in order. Start with what's bothering you right now, and then we'll sort it out. Melanio gratefully looked at her. That bitch simply wore me down. They say never marry actresses, they're all cuckoo, he blurted out with bitterness. I got married way too early, I acted like a decent person, he snorted bitterly. As if. When a girl gets knocked up, you, as a decent person, are obligated to marry her. Who said that? Alba asked, realizing he was quoting someone. My father. Melanio burst out with anger. You think I wanted to get married at 17? At 17? Alba gasped, repeating his last words. Wow. So you were forced? Well, not exactly forced, he grimaced. Let's say I didn't have much choice. What did I know back then? A teenager, a fool. She was much older than me, already in her last year of college, and I had just finished high school. On prom night, our parents organized a cultural program for us, a boat trip, dinner, and all that. And there, on the boat, an interactive theatrical performance, what a joke. He spat in frustration, remembering it, and clenched his fists tightly. There she hooked me. I still don't understand why I fell for her. I had nothing to offer, no money, no job, no image, nothing at all. I inherited my father's old suit, which he only wore twice, at his wedding and at Grandma's funeral. They altered it to fit me, and that was all I had. Oh, we managed to scrape up some money for that damn prom. In short, we started seeing each other. Well, to say seeing each other is an overstatement. We didn't go anywhere, didn't do anything together. I didn't even have the money to entertain a girl properly. She would just call me whenever she wanted to have fun, and I would run to her like a puppy, wherever she said. I rushed like crazy, felt like flying on wings. I thought she loved me, and I thought I loved her too. But when she told me she was pregnant, I was in complete shock. Pregnant? A child? What do I know about kids? I had just barely grown out of short pants myself. As time passed, she pressured me to marry her, saying that now that I made her pregnant, I should take responsibility. Then she unexpectedly came to my house and spilled the beans to my parents. My mother almost had a heart attack. My father turned all red, took me aside, and asked if it was true. I had to confess. What could I do? That's when he told me that if I could make a baby, I should be able to raise one too. Get married, he said, we'll take money from the savings account for your wedding. And they did. But there was no wedding. She's an actress, damn her. He cursed disgustingly, and Alba even closed her eyes with disgust and pity. Do you know what she came up with? Melanio asked Alba. You'll never guess. Only those damn actors can come up with something like this. I hate them all. She took the money my parents gave us and promised to arrange everything herself. She said not to worry, she would inform her parents and arrange with the restaurant and the master of ceremonies. So, we discussed everything with my parents. We thought she surely knew what she was doing. We filed the application, and then she called me with a funereal tone and said, Melanio, my dear, I feel really bad, morning sickness for 2 days, call an ambulance and come over, I feel like I can hardly breathe. Of course, I got scared, called an ambulance, went over, and they were already loading her onto a stretcher. She looked all green, had dark circles under her eyes, scary to look at. They took her to the hospital, everything as usual. She wrote to me that her condition is serious, and I'll have to stay on bed rest. You have to apologize to your parents. We'll have to postpone the wedding until the baby is born. But we'll still get married, you don't worry. I found out we can invite a registry office employee right to the hospital. And that's what they did. The registry office lady came, and they married us in the ward, with 2 nannies as witnesses. That was it, and I was already a married man and a future father at 17. I was planning to enter the math department in August, but then all this came crashing down, and I couldn't get myself together. I found a temporary job as a porter, and we didn't even think about the money they gave us for the wedding, my relatives, and I didn't even mention it. We didn't ask her either. It was uncomfortable to bother a pregnant and sick woman with such things. We thought that she would give birth, recover, and then we could celebrate the wedding. Or rather, that's what my parents thought, and I didn't care at all. I didn't really understand what was going on. I was too young. My head was in a whirlwind. Melanio fell silent, gazing into the distance with absent eyes, and asked Alba with a plaintive tone, Can I go smoke? Smoke here, she generously allowed him, even though she didn't smoke herself and knew he had quit a long time ago. Open the window and smoke, and I'll wrap myself in the blanket. Although it was already late March, the final spring warmth was in no hurry to establish itself. The nights were cold and windy. The damp spring wind was the perfect time for all sorts of colds, and Alba knew that well. But one day, after work, Melanio threw the butt out of the window and closed it. I went to her place, he continued, struggling to find the right words. Alba understood that and remained silent, not trying to rush him. It was already late. She lived on the 2nd floor, and someone left the stairs unattended. Probably the janitor or someone else. And the light was on in my beloved's apartment. I decided to look through the window. Maybe she was already asleep and just forgot to turn off the light. If she's sleeping, I won't disturb or bother her. So, I saw something there that made me sick to my stomach. She was with some guy, much older than me, lying naked on the bed and smiling. It made me almost throw up. I rolled down like a lunatic and then, it's like I blanked out. I still don't remember to this day how and where I spent that night. Melanio wiped his moist eyes with the back of his hand. Well, after that, of course, we never talked about any wedding again. Much later, after Mila was born, and I returned from the army, she herself once told me that she never had any morning sickness at all. She cleverly faked it all to extort money for the wedding. And in her bed was some washed-up director who promised to cast her in a movie. Oh my God! Alba felt a wave of nausea and covered her mouth with her hand. Melanio turned to her. Are you feeling sick? No, it's nothing, Alba forced out. It passed. She looked at him with wide eyes, still feeling as if she had been deceived so horribly, not him. But mixed with this disgust, there was another feeling, deep shame. Shame for herself, for her stupid action with this damn camera. Shame that today, feeling sorry for herself, she brought him out of town for no reason. It turned out that she, Alba, was not much better than him. What's her name? She asked quietly. Your ex-wife. Inez, he smirked. How about that? Inez? She involuntarily smiled. Is that a stage name? She's an actress, right? If only. He shook his head and furrowed his brow. That's how she registered herself in her passport. Changed her name, can you believe it? A star, so she thought. He clenched his fist with renewed strength, but then quickly remembered and regretted the innocent table in front of Alba. And what was her name before? Why did she marry you? Guess 3 times. Was it because of your last name? Surprised, Alba covered her mouth with her hand again and burst out laughing. Inés Bosques, huh? Yes, Melanio nodded. Exactly. When we were on the boat, and they gave us all sorts of silly joke diplomas, she got fixated on my last name. Can you imagine? She told me later. She got tired of enduring mockery. She said she'd killed her parents for giving her such a start in life. Just think, who would want to cast someone named Peter Dolores in their movie? But your last name sounds really cool, Bosques. What a fool. Alba shook her head. My goodness. Exactly, that's what I thought, Melanio agreed, feeling much better after their laughter therapy. I didn't know you could just change your last name like that. Just write an application and change it. She even changed her first name, didn't have to get married again. They laughed at his joke again, but then Melanio became serious again. I didn't treat you fairly, that's true. Please forgive me. I thought that with such a flaw, a child from a crazy woman, you wouldn't accept me, couldn't come to terms with it. And what, did you really plan to hide her forever? Alba protested. Come on, you're something else. Let's meet her soon. Really? Melanio beamed. For sure. You'll like her, I promise. She's nothing like her crazy mother. She's kind, calm, and overall. All children are good, Alba confidently said, playing the role of a child psychologist for a moment. Absolutely all. No one is born bad. Of course, inherent qualities are present in everyone, and there's no escaping that. But a significant portion of a psychopath is shaped by upbringing. And it's not just the upbringing per se, but also the behavior of the adults around us. Alba mounted her favorite hobby horse and was carried away, so to speak. Melanio looked at her with admiring surprise. She had never spoken to him about these things before. So, you see, Alba continued her presentation, as adults, we must always remember how our actions affect our children. Let's say we come home from work, tired, angry, and hungry as hell. All we want is to lie down and rest, and then the child comes running, saying, Mom, Dad, look what I drew, or help me with my math, I don't get it. And what do we usually say? I don't have time for this right now, I'll look later. In the best case, Melanio chimed in, fully agreeing with her. Exactly. Alba excitedly paced around the room. And what happens then? The child starts feeling unwanted, abandoned, forgotten. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. The real damage is done when families fall apart. Adults are preoccupied with their quarrels and problems, and they couldn't care less about their children. In the best scenario, relationships with parents get strained, and in the worst case, they just disintegrate. That's how it was for me. And it leads to psychological traumas that are invisible from the outside, like common illnesses. But they take much longer and are more complicated to heal. Alba, you should go teach your subject. Melanio exclaimed in admiration. You have a great way with words. Oh, I'm just upset right now, that's why it all came pouring out, Alba blushed and felt embarrassed. But seriously, bring your Milu, and let's get acquainted. Okay, Melanio beamed. But, he frowned again, her crazy mother brings her over only when she feels like it. If she needs to go for a shoot and the nanny isn't available or it's too late to call her. Does that happen often? Alba asked and then said, well, why am I even asking? I know it does. She's always on the go, and she barely has time for Milu. Honestly, she doesn't even want to spend much time with her, Melanio sighed. Don't you want to take her with you permanently? Alba looked at him expectantly. You're asking? Of course, I do. But that crazy woman will never let go. Milou is her tool for manipulating me. You know what she said to me that night when I had to go to their place? What? She said that if I didn't come right away, she wouldn't let me see Milou at all. And she'd turn Milou against me. What a jerk! Alba exclaimed with feeling, familiar with such parental blackmail. And did she ever think about her own child? I bet not. People like her only think about themselves. Look at my mother, she's no actress, but she did the same when she and my father got divorced. Yeah, and she found out about my new job and now demands not 25% of the alimony but 50%, Melanio said. She claims someone told her that if a spouse doesn't have a steady income after the divorce, she's entitled to support too. Can you believe it? Well, we'll see about that, Alba said provocatively. Let's go see a lawyer ourselves. I doubt she's completely right. Alba. Melanio hugged her and kissed her forehead tenderly. You're something else. Just amazing. What am I? She smiled at him. Tell me. Beautiful. Melanio blossomed with happiness. I'm lucky to have you. Soon they said their goodbyes. Melanio went back to his place, and Alba, feeling utterly content now that everything was resolved and there were no more misunderstandings between them, fell into a deep and peaceful sleep. He called her in the morning, beaming with joy. Today, Peter promised to bring Milou until the end of the week, said she's leaving for a shoot. Do you still call her Peter? Alba chuckled, no longer fearing that glamorous lady now that she knew everything about her. Of course. Who is this Inez anyway? Melanio laughed, and Alba felt his good mood. She was thrilled about meeting Milou and said she would gladly come over. The dissolving door welcomed her into Melanio's apartment. Alba took her time undressing, quickly pecked her fiancé on the cheek, and noticed a small, timid figure in the kitchen doorway. Alba didn't resort to overly fake voices that many adults use when they encounter any familiar or unfamiliar child, like who do we have here, such as sweetie? Come here, I'll give you candy, and the like. Instead, she pretended not to notice the attentive shadow. The little girl assessed her but didn't hurry to approach. Alba stroked Viviana, gave a sly wink to Melanio, and walked into the room, calling out loudly, Hey, I brought something interesting. You said your daughter was coming today, right? Yes, Melanio replied, playing along. She's already here. She's probably just afraid to meet you. Too bad, Alba pretended to sigh. Then I guess I'll have to take this gift back. A curious little face appeared in the doorway, and the girl spoke directly to her dad, ignoring the unfamiliar lady, who seemed scary and unfriendly to her. Dad, what gift? The girl intentionally spoke only to her father. Well, Alba brought you something here. Don't you want to take a closer look? Melanio nodded at the gift. Yes, the girl nodded. I want. Then come to us, he beckoned her over, patting the spot on the couch next to him. Come on, sit here with me. Milou approached shyly and sat down next to her dad, hugging him. She didn't rush to interact with the new person, and that was perfectly normal, as Alba had told him in advance. We won't force anything or make her interact, Alba had advised him. Let her just observe for now. When she feels comfortable and safe, and sees that I won't harm her, she'll come forward herself. Well, let's see. Melanio cautiously placed the box on the coffee table. I wonder what Alba brought us, huh? Milou silently nodded. Shall we open it together? Oh wow. Another box inside, see? Yeah, the girl nodded. Do you want to open it by yourself? Yes, she extended her little hand carefully. I do. Go ahead, open it. Oh, surprised, Milou recoiled for a moment but quickly leaned in to examine the box again. She looked up at her father with wide, amazed eyes. There's a fish in there. A fish? Melanio seemed as surprised as his daughter. What kind of fish? A golden fish. The little one smiled widely, revealing her pink gums with a few teeth. It's swimming. It's alive. Let's see. Melanio carefully took out a small plastic container with a golden green fish, its long tail adorned with bright red tips. Indeed, it's alive. Let's ask Alba what kind of fish it is. It's a goldfish, explained Alba. They're easy to take care of and don't require much attention. Milu can handle it herself, I'm sure. It only needs a small aquarium, and you don't even need to oxygenate the water because these fish can breathe atmospheric air. Sometimes they come up to the surface, gulp some air, and then go back into the water, you see? Oh, really? Exclaimed the little girl in awe. And how did you know that I wanted a fish? I was once a little girl too, Alba smiled at her. And I wanted everything, a fish, a bird, a kitten, a puppy, and even a pet rat. But I never had any because my parents wouldn't allow it. My mom doesn't allow it either, Mila shared. But now I can, because it's a gift. That's right, Alba agreed. You don't return gifts. And in the other box, look, there's a small round aquarium. This fish doesn't need much water and doesn't need company, it prefers to live alone. But I don't like living alone, Milu passionately said. I want us all to live together, Mom, Dad, and me. And I also want a little brother or sister. But they won't be born, they got divorced. That happens, Alba told her. It's nothing to be scared of. My parents got divorced too, but nobody divorced you. They still love you very much, both your mom and dad. I know, Milu nodded. I love them too. Let's go have some coffee, Alba got up from her chair. I'll make some pancakes with condensed milk. Do you like pancakes? Maybe, Milu pondered. They only make them for us at kindergarten. We'll find out soon, Alba smiled at her. Do you want to help? Yes, the girl happily replied. I do. Melanio watched with a smile as Alba skillfully interacted with the usually distrustful and reserved Milu. After 15 minutes, the first pancakes were ready, 2 slightly lumpy ones. Look, Dad, I made them myself, the girl proudly demonstrated her culinary masterpieces. They're a little lumpy, but Alba said it's normal for the first pancake. And I made 2. Wow, so delicious. Melanio took a piece of the crumpled, cheesy pancake and skillfully put it in his mouth. I can't get enough of this. Ha ha. Milu laughed. Then you'll be without your mind. Let's give some to Viviana too, Melanio suggested. What do you think? Of course. Milu generously agreed. I actually brought them for her too. Viviana appreciated the gift as well as the usual flat ones. An hour later, Milu was fast asleep, having eaten her fill of pancakes and enjoyed a bath. Before bedtime, Melanio read her a fairy tale, and as she drowsily closed her eyes, she asked, Dad, will Alba still be here when I wake up tomorrow? I don't know, he replied. What do you want? Let her stay, the girl decided. Her pancakes are really delicious. By gracious permission, she's allowed to stay, Melanio informed her, returning to the kitchen. Alba smiled at him. She's so adorable. A wonderful child. Thank you. He bloomed like a sunflower in the sun. I shouldn't have worried and should have told you everything right away. You shouldn't have, Alba agreed. But I understand you. You're the best for me. He affectionately embraced the girl. I love you very, very, very much. At the end of the week, Milu's mother returned from her shooting, spoiling the good impression. As usual, she came without warning to surprise my little one, as she put it, and upon entering the apartment, she bumped into Alba, who opened the door for her. What is this now? Peter Inez protested as if Alba was not a person but a harmful insect that had inexplicably appeared in the apartment. Good evening, Alba said calmly with a smile. Who are you looking for? What do you mean, who? I came for my daughter. Oh, so you're Inez? Alba smiled brightly. You should have said so right away. I'm sorry. I didn't realize immediately. I'm Alba, Melanio's fiancé. Oh, really? Peter pursed her beautiful full lips. Fiancé? Yes, Alba nodded. I'll call Milu now. She's in the bathroom changing her fish's water. Milu, your mom is here. She informed the girl, entering the bathroom where father and daughter were intently catching the poor scared fish with a net to put it into the round aquarium with fresh water. Tell her to wait, Milu commanded. I'll come as soon as I catch the fish. They'll finish in a moment and come. Alba looked at Peter, who stood in the hallway with the air of an English queen who had to condescend to beggars. You know, I watched the play you were in, Alba told her, the monologue of Arch Idea. Really? Peter pursed her lips. Yes, I really liked it. Your portrayal of the orchid was simply unparalleled. Alba enthusiastically lied, having never seen a play with Peter Inez. Thank you. Peter smiled, licked her lips, and changed her anger to graciousness, touched by Alba's admiration. Maybe, I don't even know if it's convenient, Alba hesitated, pretending to be unsure. Maybe you could give me an autograph? Well, all right then. Peter rolled her eyes, showing how tired she was of persistent fans. Do you have a pen? Yes, Alba hurriedly replied. Here it is, if it's okay. You see, I work as an accountant, and I have to deal with all sorts of silly paperwork. Please don't mind, I don't have anything else at hand. Oh, never mind, Peter waved her hand in a graceful glove. It doesn't bother me. She nonchalantly scribbled something on the piece of paper that Alba handed her and looked at herself in the mirror. So, are they coming soon? Mom. Milu rushed out of the bathroom. Mommy, Alba gave me a golden fish as a gift. A fish? Peter asked with disgust, examining the aquarium that Melanio carried out in his hands. Are we taking it home? Of course, Mom, it's a gift. The girl shouted, jumping with joy. Well, fine, Peter reluctantly agreed. But we'll have to have Dad carry this aquarium to the car, and then Uncle Rodrigo will drag it from there. Who's Rodrigo? Alba asked Melanio when he returned to the apartment. Her new boyfriend, he replied, a producer. He's going to cast her in some new series. Well, that's great, said Alba. And look what I have here. She waved some paper in front of him. What's this? Melanio was interested. Consent for Milu to travel abroad with you, Alba explained triumphantly. How? How did you manage that? Melanio exclaimed, examining the signature on the document with disbelief. I've been courting her for 3 months just to go to Cyprus with Milu for the May holidays. She thought she was giving me an autograph. Alba laughed. Oh, you got me. Melanio shrugged. Now I'm afraid to even sit next to you. He pretended to widen his eyes and shook his head. Psychologists. Don't give them an inch, they'll take a mile. Exactly. Alba smiled. I told you we'd handle everything. Peter is the most typical hysteric. You just need to praise her, and she'll bring everything on a silver platter without even noticing it. They had a great time together on Cyprus during the May holidays. Peter Inez was busy with her new shootings and didn't even ask how they were going to spend those long weekends. Upon their return, when she found out that Milu had been to Cyprus with her father and Alba, she just waved her hand, well, whatever. Alba, when meeting her, continued to praise her intelligence, beauty, and talent. And Peter melted like clay under the sun, and you could mold anything out of her. She hardly noticed that Milu was spending much more time with her father than with her. Well, she had other things on her mind. Her career was taking off after the affair with the producer, and Inez became highly sought after by directors of various soap operas. Alba and Melanio got married, bought a large apartment, and gave birth to Milu, a brother and a sister, just as she had wanted. Faithful Viviana became a real nanny to the little ones, carefully watching that the kids didn't accidentally cause any trouble. At the age of 14, Milu finally moved out from her mother, who was hardly ever at home, and started living with her father. Milu and Alba became very close, and they often went shopping together. Many times, complete strangers would tell them, "Your daughter looks just like you. You can see the family resemblance." Alba and Milu would exchange glances and laugh happily. They felt good together, and they got along wonderfully. And when people find common ground, it doesn't matter what blood they share. Because the most important thing in relationships is honesty and mutual respect. Then there will be love, trust, and true friendship.
If you're enjoying it as well, leave a like and subscribe.